Hello and welcome back. You're watching WION World is One and this is World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar. Let's begin with the headlines. Reports say Russian President Vladimir Putin demanded Ukraine withdraw from Donetsk and Luhansk as a condition for ending the war, offering a freeze along the remaining front line in return during talks with his U.S. counterpart at the Alaska summit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia's refusal to accept a ceasefire was complicating efforts to end the war. He expresses skepticism about the future, pondering over the bigger question: how to get Russia to have the will to implement far greater peaceful coexistence with its neighbors for decades. Fish clashes erupt between protesters and riot police in Serbia's capital Belgrade and other cities on fifth consecutive night of unrest. U.S. State Department announces halt on all visitor visas for individuals from Gaza, says it is conducting a full and thorough review of the process and procedures used to issue temporary medical humanitarian visas to Gazans in recent days. Protesters marched to the White House expressing their anger at what they call Trump's fascist takeover of Washington, D.C., following the federalization of the city's police and the deployment of the National Guard. Brazil's ex-president Jair Bolsonaro briefly released from house arrest to undergo medical exams weeks before the Supreme Court rules on coup attempt case. Canadian government moves to end strike by Air Canada cabin crew, asks Labour Board to order binding arbitration, an action that the country's largest carrier had sought and which the striking flight attendants had opposed. Shubhanshu Shukla, the second Indian to travel to space, returns to a grand welcome in New Delhi, days after completing NASA's Axiom 4 mission. One day after the Alaska summit, outlines have emerged of peace proposals discussed by Russia's Vladimir Putin and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump. According to reports which cited official sources, Russia proposed relinquishing tiny pockets of occupied Ukraine, and in return, Kiev would cede swathes of its eastern land, which Moscow has been unable to capture. Trump had confirmed in an interview with Fox News that he and Putin discussed land transfers along with security guarantees for Ukraine and had largely agreed. Sources said under the proposed Russian deal, Kiev would fully withdraw from the eastern Donetsk and Luhansk regions in return for a Russian pledge to freeze the front lines in the southern regions of Kherson and Zaporizhia. Post-meeting with Putin, Trump briefed Zelensky and the European leaders on his summit discussions. Trump said Ukraine should make a deal with Russia because Russia is very, very big and they are not.
Look, Russia's a very big power. And they're not. They're great soldiers, and they have great, but you know, they also had the best equipment. You know, they had our equipment. And I gave them javelins, if you remember, in my first term. In fact, there was a statement, I gave javelins. You remember this?
Putin's offer ruled out a ceasefire until a comprehensive deal is reached, blocking a key demand of Zelensky, whose country is hit daily by Russian drones and ballistic missiles. Zelensky said Russia's refusal to accept a ceasefire was complicating efforts to end the war. He expressed skepticism about the future, pondering over the biggest question: how to get Russia to have the will to implement far greater peaceful coexistence with its neighbors for decades. Zelensky is due to travel to Washington on Monday to discuss with Trump a possible settlement of the full-scale war. Reports say European leaders are invited to come along with Zelensky. The French presidency, meanwhile, said the leaders of Britain, France, and Germany will be hosting a video call on Sunday involving Kiev's allies in a coalition of the willing to discuss steps towards peace in Ukraine. And to discuss more, we are now being joined by Edward P. Joseph from Washington, D.C. He's a lecturer at the Johns Hopkins University and a foreign policy analyst. Good to see you.
Good to be with you.
Now, Trump has dropped his push for a ceasefire in Ukraine in favor of pursuing a full peace accord with everything that has evolved since Putin and Trump. Are we looking towards a peace agreement?
We're looking towards a negotiation now that very much favors Russia and Vladimir Putin, and that's the unfortunate result of this Alaska meeting, what I call the Alaska fiasco. President Trump went into this meeting, in his own words, saying that he wanted a ceasefire, saying that he would be disappointed, very disappointed, and that there would be consequences, severe consequences, if he did not emerge with one. And of course, that nothing of the kind took place. And Vladimir Putin leaves Anchorage with not only the red carpet literally being rolled out, but with the specter of any serious pressure from the United States largely abated. It seems utterly unrealistic at this point that President Trump would actually follow through on his prior threats after he indicated that President Putin was, quote, tapping him along, that he would impose serious sanctions and utilize the very real American leverage on Russia and on Putin. But that seems to have totally evaporated in Anchorage. And so to your question, are we going to have a peace deal? We're going to have terms presented to President Zelensky on Monday, already presented to him in a phone call, but the details fully discussed at the White House on Monday, and they will be basically President Putin's terms. And the dynamics here are such that the pressure will be on the smaller country, the country that's defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity with its own soldiers. That's very important to point out here. Not relying on other countries to do the fighting, but Ukraine itself. And so those are the dynamics. It's Ukraine that will be under pressure, and you hear President Trump saying, well, Russia's a big country. Well, that's precisely why Ukraine is the one that needs the backing of even bigger countries like the United States and its NATO allies. Please.
Absolutely. And that being said, now security guarantees have also been another sticking point. How likely do you think it is for Zelensky to agree to these concessions and security guarantees? And what does it mean for European allies at this point?
Well, you're right to point to security guarantees because those become all important here. Now, remember what seems to be on the table is that Ukraine has to cede territory in the Donbas region, Donetsk and Luhansk, that Russia doesn't even fully control. So that's part of the demand here, first of all. And second, all of these talks and negotiations take place while Russia continues to attack civilians. So that's a second point here. Then the third point, what does Ukraine get? Ukraine gets a promise that there will be a ceasefire elsewhere. In other words, you give up territory for the promise of a ceasefire elsewhere. Well, what does that mean? Is this permanent? Is this truly permanent? How will Ukraine be assured that Russia will not simply use this pause of a ceasefire to regroup and become even stronger, and then take more territory and attack again? How can it be assured of that? And that's where this question of security guarantees comes in. Now, President Trump has said that President Putin has agreed to security guarantees. Really? Well, what are they? The ultimate guarantee, of course, is Ukraine's membership in NATO. That would provide the Article 5 guarantee. That's the one for all and all for one guarantee. Is that on the table? Presumably not. So what actually are the security guarantees? And we have to remember the context here. We have a United States led by President Trump that shows every indication by President Trump of a reluctance to actually stand up to President Putin and really show him that there are serious consequences for him continuing this war. Please.
Absolutely. Of course, we'll have to yet see how the Europeans react to this. Well, Europeans have been invited, as reports do say, and we have to see if they do come along with Zelensky there for the discussions and how this plays out for the whole of Europe. But thank you so much for joining us on the show and giving your perspective. That was Edward P. Joseph joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, let's shift our focus now amid reports of Hamas softening its stance regarding a phased ceasefire and hostage release. Israeli government is doubling down on its demand. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists he will only agree to a comprehensive deal, one in which all hostages are released at once, and its conditions to ending the war are fully met. The conditions include disarming of Hamas, demilitarization of Gaza, Israeli control of the Gaza perimeter, and the establishment of non-Hamas, non-Palestinian authority governance that will live in peace with Israel. The statement comes amid reports that Hamas negotiators in Cairo have expressed new willingness to return to a phased deal, including a 60-day ceasefire and the partial release of hostages. This is a sharp turn from last month, when talks in Doha collapsed after Hamas demanded a permanent ceasefire up front. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has announced that it is suspending visitor visas for individuals from Gaza, citing a need for what it calls a full and thorough review of the visa issuance process. The suspension follows a wave of online criticism from far-right influencer Laura Loomer, who said that pro-Hamas individuals were being allowed in the country. International pressure on Israel continues to mount. On Saturday, France condemned Israel's latest plans to expand settlement construction in the West Bank, calling it a serious violation of international law. The controversial E1 project would see 3,400 new homes built, threatening the possibility of a contiguous Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. In Tel Aviv, meanwhile, thousands of demonstrators filled the streets demanding that the government take urgent action to bring the hostages home and end the war in Gaza. Now, torrential rains have wreaked havoc in northwestern Pakistan with flash floods and rain-related disasters, claiming over 344 lives in the last 48 hours. Authorities say the majority of the deaths, that's around 328, have been reported in mountainous Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Now, this takes the Pakistan's cumulative death toll to over 541 since June, as higher than normal rainfall continues to pound the nation. Incessant rains have toppled key infrastructures, with visuals showing what remains after the disaster. Meanwhile, shots of relief operations from province of Pakhtunkhwa show emergency responders retrieving one dead body after another from the debris. Around 2,000 rescue workers have been mobilized to carry out relief operations in 9 affected districts where rain is still hampering efforts.
50 bodies have been recovered from Kadir Naga village. About 30 people are still missing. Funeral preparations are underway and villagers have gathered, but no help has arrived.
A state of national mourning has now been declared in Pakistan owing to the tremendous humanitarian losses. Pakistani authorities reported that over 3,500 tourists have been evacuated from flood-affected areas across the country. Officials say many of the losses are linked to travelers ignoring government warnings to avoid vulnerable regions, particularly in Gilgit-Baltistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Amid the crisis, weary residents continue to grapple with the aftermath of the floods. Rainwater has inundated their homes, and many are describing the situation as doomsday, citing a lack of government assistance. Relief efforts have been severely hampered, with washed-out roads and continued rainfall cutting off access to several affected areas.
No politicians, no government officials showed up. We're under PTI governance here, but no one came to help. When the flood hit, our house collapsed, and 6 of our family members were swept away. We managed to pull 5 out using ropes, but 1 went missing. After 2 hours of desperate cries for help, we finally heard his voice and pulled him out through a pipe.
Now, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is all set to visit India for a 2-day visit from August 18th to August. Now, this according to press note from India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The top Chinese diplomat will be in India to hold the 24th round of talks on the India-China border, along with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Now, at the same time, China confirmed its foreign minister's visit to India. This series of negotiations are aimed to address long-standing border disputes, which are now seeing a temporary de-escalation following years of tension. Wang Yi, along with National Security Advisor Doval, co-leads the Special Representative's Dialogue Mechanism, which focuses on resolving the long-standing border dispute along the 3,488-kilometer line of control. The 2 last met in Beijing in December to review disengagement in eastern Ladakh. Additionally, the MEA also confirmed that External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will be meeting Wang Yi for bilateral discussions. Wang's visit comes ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's planned trip to Tianjin, where he is set to attend the annual Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Now, during the summit, PM Modi is also expected to share the stage with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And while New Delhi makes rapid strides with Beijing, not just in resolving border tensions, but also resuming cross-border trade, the visit comes at a time when both the South Asian nations find themselves locked in trade tensions with Washington. Now, while Russia faces tightening Western sanctions over its war in Ukraine, the country has quietly built a shadow crypto economy. Blockchain analytics firm Chainalysis reports that Russia's A785 token, a cryptocurrency backed by the ruble, has processed over $51 billion in transactions since its launch. The token has largely circulated on a small number of exchanges with strong ties with Russia, all of which have been sanctioned by the U.S. This suggests Russia is using crypto to facilitate cross-border business payments while bypassing traditional financial restrictions. Now, Chainalysis notes that transactions occur mostly during weekdays, indicating the cryptocurrency is primarily used for business exchanges. Recent Russian legislation has further supported this trend, legalizing crypto mining and cross-border crypto payments. Analysts say these measures are a deliberate effort to create alternative financial infrastructure by backing its exchanges with state-linked institutions. Russia is establishing crypto-native payment rails to counter the impact of international sanctions. Despite the rise of alternative assets like crypto and gold, ordinary Russians are feeling the effects of war-driven inflation. Consumer prices, especially for food and utilities, have risen sharply, with year-on-year inflation reaching nearly 9%. Spending, which grew steadily through 2024, has slowed in 2025, pointing to a potential stagnation in the economy. As President Putin looks to mend ties with the U.S., the country faces both the economic pressures and the ongoing challenge of sustaining its shadow crypto economy. Now, today, the film world tips its hat to one of its most revered figures, Robert De Niro. Born in New York City in 1943, De Niro's journey from the gritty streets of Greenwich Village to the pinnacle of Hollywood stardom is a story of unparalleled dedication to his craft. His early work, particularly his transformative collaboration with director Martin Scorsese, cemented his reputation as a master of method acting, bringing an intense realism to every role. From the troubled Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver to the volatile Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull, a role that earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor, De Niro's performances are often cited as benchmarks in cinematic history. His portrayal of the young Vito Corleone in The Godfather Part 3, which garnered him his first Oscar, showcased his incredible ability to embody complex characters with profound depth. While he is perhaps most celebrated for his dramatic roles in crime epics like Goodfellas and Casino, De Niro has also demonstrated remarkable comedic timings in films such as Meet the Parents and Analyze This. The versatility underscores his enduring appeal and his status as a true acting chameleon. Beyond the screen, his co-founding of Tribeca Film Festival speaks to his commitment to nurturing new talent and celebrating the art of cinema. As he is celebrating his birthday as a living legend, and his filmography, which has a rich tapestry of iconic performances, continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Well, that's on World DNA. We'll continue with lots lined up on the other side. Before we go, here's a lineup of all the climate stories making headlines across the world. Take a look.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Iran warns Israel of tracking its every move. If push comes to shove, Tehran is prepared to strike back. border control, or complete occupation? Amid protests and pushback, what is Netanyahu's real plan for Gaza? Yemen's Red Sea attacks come at a cost for its own people. Is peace out of reach? Famed footballer Ronaldo is now engaged, but how is he living under Saudi's laws unmarried?
Watch the West Asia Pulse with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
This week on Wings, we cover what happens at the Red Fort on Independence Day, the recent engineering marvels of Indian railways from south to north and even the northeast. We also give you a roundup of great national parks and museums that celebrate India's independence. Only on WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION, World is One.
When I see these young women today leading troops, achieving so much, fighting jet planes, and it really fills me with a sense of fulfillment.
Not only these two particular days, 26th January or 15th August, every day he makes us proud. And I hope that we, both of us, making him proud too.
I was thinking about my unit ladies, my families.
I'm a soldier's wife is something that defines me and many other military wives. There is no better definition to me. This is exactly what I am and what I stand for.
मुझे और मेरी पूरी टीम को यहाँ पे ड्यूटी करने में बहुत गर्व महसूस होता है.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
These female BSF soldiers posted on the line of control not only patrol the LOC and international border, but also go to the ambush site as well as if there is an infiltration pit near the line of control.
मुझे और मेरी पूरी टीम को यहाँ पे ड्यूटी करने में बहुत गर्व महसूस होता है.